Well, good afternoon. How are y'all today? Good. Hey, usually I talk loud enough so that I don't even need a microphone so you can hear me in the back of the room. Can you hear me in the back of the room now? Is that better? Good. So today as I was preparing, it's typical Monday. Long weekend, sometimes you go to bed late. I was smoking jerky last night. In a smoker, not smoking. So I was doing jerky last night, and I got to bed about 1 o'clock. And so, around my house this morning, everybody was running a little behind. So as I'm taking my daughter to school today, she said, "Daddy, we have this thing." And I asked her, "Grayson, what's going on today at school? What are you going to do today?" And so she went down her list of activities, and she said, "Well, Daddy, what are you doing today?" And I said, "Well, I get to go, and I'm going to be lunchtime entertainment today, and I'm going to do a presentation while a lot of my fellow engineers eat lunch." She gave me some sage advice. She said, "Well, Daddy, try not to make anybody sick."
Good words to live by.
Good words to live by, absolutely. So I'm going to try and not make anybody sick today. My name is Tim McKay, and I am Executive Vice President for the Growth and Regional Development Group at DART. And I have 5 functional areas, and I'm going to talk not about all of them today, but I'm going to talk about the ones that may interest you the most. Now, normally the way I do these is I'll give you an update. I'll do that fairly quickly today. I will talk a little bit about some opportunities, but at the end, at the very last slide, I will sum up the opportunities that you may be interested in, things that we're going to be doing in the near future that we're going to need partners for. I am truly honored, and it's a privilege to be here today. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about was the multimodal system that we have grown to at DART. A lot of you are familiar faces, and a lot of you have helped us achieve that status, and so I very much appreciate your hard work and effort, because we don't do those things on our own. We have a very small staff, and then we augment through consultants. I would also not be a very good speaker if I didn't introduce a few of the folks that are with me today. So I don't know exactly where they got seated, but I've seen a few of them. One of them is David Faloran. David, would you stand? There he is. So David Faloran is a young man that came to us in an internship program. David is now working with us and transitioning to a permanent position, and David is one of the younger generation. He's going to be a franchise player, and we're very blessed to have him. So thank you for being here today, David. Also with me today is David Ehrlicher. David, would you stand? There's David in the back. Now, and I should have done this before I introduced David, put all the sharp objects down. David's not an engineer. He's actually an architect. Okay. But David is a franchise player. David and I have worked together for quite a few years, and David oversees our design and construction departments, and in addition to the architecture of the whole system. So if you don't know David Ehrlicher, get to know David, because he's a great guy to know, and he's a very, very sharp individual from the standpoint of how to deliver projects. Standing before you today is a practical architect, practical in an engineering sense, and so we're very blessed to have David. Thank you for being here, David. I think there's one more, George Avalos. King George, are you out there? There's George. Okay, there's King George. George Avalos is one of our project professionals, and right now he's a little tired today. He's working on a project where we're replacing the rail in our downtown core, and George is overseeing that. George does everything for the agency. The first weekend he was out there moving the pulleys so that they could pull rail, and he's giving them direction. And so George does a lot of projects for us. We got George, maybe 10 years ago? About 10 years ago. And so we're very blessed to have George. Thank you for being here today, George. The reason why those folks are there is because at the end, if you have any hard question, it's not me that's going to answer that. It will be one of those people. Okay, so our system, obviously we have bus routes. That was the backbone of the system. It still is. It feeds all of our larger operations. We have a little more than 90 miles of light rail, the largest light rail system in North America. Now, some people would tell you in the hemisphere, some people would tell you in the free world, some people tell you, Gary Thomas, I think, used in the Milky Way, but it is, I can confirm that it is the longest system in North America. And most of you have helped us to build that. We built 48 miles in the last 13 years. When I took over, the system was 42 miles long, and now we're just a little over 90 miles. So thanks to those of you that have helped us do that. Commuter rail, we operate as a partner with the T between Dallas and Fort Worth. We have 10 stations. We do that every day, except for Sunday. And the other thing that you may not know is that DCTA, the A-Train, contracts with the TRE in order to provide service. And so not only do we provide service for ourselves, but we also provide service for folks like DCTA. And then the TexRail project, a few of you may be familiar with that, will also follow the same pattern. And so our little TRE group is starting to grow, and they will be the regional operator for the Metroplex. We have, of course, paratransit and van pool. The things that aren't on the slide are streetcar. We'll have our first little system that will kick off, our base system, here in about 4 months. And then we have some extensions that we're already working on. We just kicked off the design on those, and we'll be looking for a contractor soon. And then possibly bus rapid transit. We have some applications potentially on the Cotton Belt and also up the 75 corridor that look like they may be valuable candidates for bus rapid transit. So keep an eye out for that. And who knows what else. We're doing zip car pilots. We're looking at a bike program. And we haven't gotten an application for the drones yet because they're just not big enough to pick up people and move them around. But we're working on that. And so it's pretty exciting time when you look at all the different modes that we get to deal with. So if you look at the map, and I know those of you in the back can read all the fine print on that. I can barely read it from here. Let me just give you the highlights. That is our services plan. And so recently you may have heard about or saw it in a magazine, saw it on TV, saw it in an advertisement maybe on the side of one of our trains. We're actually going to DFW Airport now. And so in August we kicked off our service to DFW Airport. Several folks in the room. Sophia? Stand up, Sophia. Let everybody get an opportunity to look and see what Sophia looks like. Sophia was one of our folks out in the field. She is our resident construction manager, our resident engineer. Some people say that's resident evil, RE, but it's really not. It's resident engineer. Sophia did a great job shepherding that project. It was a design-build project, and so thank you, Sophia, for being a part of that. The other thing that we have going on right now is the SOC3. We like these in acronyms, South Oak Cliff third phase or third build out. And essentially that goes from the VA hospital there at the Ledbetter Station down to the University of North Texas Dallas campus. That is scheduled to open here in the end of 2015, in the calendar year 2015. We have kicked off construction. If you've been out there, literally the dirt is flying. They're out there doing grading and surveying and those types of activities, utility relocations. So this is DFW Airport. The reason why I wanted to show this slide is I wanted to show you, see that dashed orange line up there at the top? Well, that is phase 2, and that is anticipated to be the people mover in a sorts that connects to, I'm the colorblind engineer, by the way. It looks blue to me. It may be purple. It may be green. It may be some other color. But the line across the top where it connects to, that is the Cotton Belt. And so when the Cotton Belt develops, it is likely that we will include a second loop on the light rail. It will not go all the time there. It will only go up there to meet the trains that would come into that station. And then DFW Airport, they were a great partner of ours. They actually funded and built the station. And then we built the systems coming into the station, and you can imagine some of the coordination efforts. But it went off pretty much without a hitch. And so I think Bud Bean is here also today. Bud has left us. There's Bud. Bud has left DART, and he's gone on to the more prosperous consulting side of the world. But Bud was instrumental. He was one of our project leads out there in design. So thanks for being here today, Bud. So here's the question already. Mac Smith. I will, let me pause. There's Mac Smith. Mac, would you stand up? If you'll indulge me for a minute. Mac Smith is one of our other folks. Mac and I have worked together for quite a while. He actually taught me everything that I know and most of the bad habits, but a lot of the good ones too. Mac was our construction manager out there, and so Mac had a lot to do with that, working with Sophia and Bud. Mac, I'm sorry, my eyesight's not that good. I didn't see you back there, but thank you for being here today. So the Blue Line extension, this is about a 3-mile segment, typical light rail, and it starts to connect now the North Texas in Denton, the North Texas in Dallas are all connected, and all you have to do is hop on a light rail, make a connection to the A train in Trinity Mills, and now you can run between the campuses. So we're excited about that. We accelerated that opening from 2019 to 2016. And this project was funded largely based upon savings from projects before it. So projects over the last 3 to 5 years, we saved enough money through our owner-controlled insurance program, through, frankly, a very competitive marketplace, and for good cost management, we funded largely this project. And so that's why we were able to move it up 3 years. This is the excitement about this project. I included this picture because you don't often get this many dignitaries. And most of those folks you will recognize, they are all strong proponents of the project. We had a groundbreaking ceremony here not that long ago. They've even collectively during the ceremony came up with the name for the line. And so they're excited about it, and we get a lot of support from these individuals. I talked a little bit about it's not just all capital projects that we have going on right now. There's also capital maintenance projects. And this was a pretty interesting project in that it was a 118-pound girder rail. And that girder rail was set in place at the very start of the system and went into operation in 1996. And so from 1996, when operation started, until now, we had some issues when the trains stop and when they start. The wheels on the train, they don't spin, but they have a churning motion. And so that churning motion has worn away the railhead face. And so we are in a process of replacing the rail down there with a 115-pound standard, but it is face hardened or head hardened so that we can better withstand some of the wheel interface issues that we have downtown. So if you've been on the system here in the last 6 months, maybe the last year, and you've ridden through the crossover there at Lamar, and it seems like maybe a small earthquake, well, all that goes away because the wheels were actually putting corrugations into the railhead face. And what was happening is the railhead wore so much that through that intersection, the vehicle was actually riding on the flange, on the wheel flange, rather than in the sweet spot of the curvature of the wheel. And so that's part of what George is doing. We're doing that only during the weekends. We have 5 critical areas. So you're going to, if you want to see some rail replacement activities, this coming weekend we'll be down there again. Thanksgiving weekend, if you want to get out and walk off a little turkey, bring your shovel, bring your hard hat and your vest. Come on down. You can help us. You can help us put some rail in the ground. But if you haven't seen something like that and you have an interest, come on down. Talk to King George. King George is running that project, but we'll be there all weekend. So there's particulars on that particular project. Now this is where we get to the good stuff. The D2, it's the second alignment through downtown. We call it D2. And the second alignment through downtown is at one time we had as many as 24 different alignments through downtown. I didn't know downtown was that big, frankly. We've got it narrowed down to 4, and so now what we're doing is we're breaking that down into phases. And so what you're going to see is you're going to see the first phase, which is called core capacity, and it is a combination of 3 projects. The tunnel segment that goes from Victory down over to Union Station, appears that it may be probable that high-speed rail may come into somewhere down around Union Station. And if it does, we want to be able to handle that capacity. And so we're making a phased approach for D2, and we're going to also then link the two streetcar systems. So the modern streetcar system, which I'll talk about in a little bit, and the McKinney Avenue trolley, the historic streetcar system. We would link those two so that people could have an alternate mode to get from one side of town to the other, which will help in a core capacity. We're also going to go back to the older parts of the system on the red and the blue line. There are 28 stations that need to be modified so we can operate a three-car consist, an A, B, and C, three of those hooked together, which requires a 400-foot platform. And so that in all of those things put together would mean that we'll have about 2/3 more carrying capacity on any given peak hour than what we have today. And if you've ridden the system lately, there are several trains where it is standing room only. We're trying to get these projects synced up and get them going. Although the idea of having pushers is kind of cool in Dallas, Texas, but we're going to try and not do that just because we think we can increase the core capacity so we don't have to do that. So the streetcar, this is the streetcar system, which is the modern streetcar. This is an interesting partnership. It is FTA Tiger grant. I think it was Tiger 3 maybe. And of course DART is doing the design and construction. The funding is by the city of Dallas, and then we have a funding partner in the North Central Texas Council of Governments. It is over by Union Station, and it will go across the bridge, the historic bridge there at the Houston Street Viaduct. And it will go down to about where the El Phoenix is there on Colorado. You know that location? Well, why, most people ask, why did you stop there? Well, number one, we ran out of funding, and it seemed like a pretty good menu choice, to go to lunch. We're about a block and a half from the hospital, and then the second phase will take us down into Bishop Arts so that we can connect down the Bishop Arts area. And if you haven't been to Bishop Arts, go down there. It's very cool, but go early on a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, or you'll park in the neighborhood somewhere and you won't remember where you parked your car. All the lots are full, and so the capacity is really jammed up down there. So this streetcar service, is going to help with that. And then the other phase is going to be north from Union Station. It'll do a loop kind of around the Convention Center Hotel, and then that will be postured to do the connection back over to the Arts District where the McKinney Avenue trolley is. D-Link, everybody says you don't get anything for free. Well, here you go. This is a free ride. You can hop on D-Link. This is the route. It'll take you in a lot of different places in downtown. It's marked with this hot pink kind of thing. And so it's you can't mistake it for anything else. Hop on it. Remember the Hoppa bus? Now this is going to start telling age, right? Remember the Hoppa bus with the rabbit ears on the bus? Well, we've stopped short of that. Now we have this hot pink fuchsia thing instead of rabbit ears. That was the negotiation. This thing will take you around town. It'll take you down into Bishop Arts. It'll take you some of the areas that people tell us that they want to go. Hop that for free, and it runs 7 days a week. The urban circulator is simply an addition to the McKinney Avenue trolley. You can see there in the three different colors. The existing, I believe, is the green dash line. The red appears to be the Olive Street extension, and then the blue solid line is the urban circulator. And those two extensions to the existing line are synced up to be opened here in the next 3 to 4 months, and so now we'll have a loop system, and again it postures to have that connection, so then we can run modern streetcars and vintage streetcars across the system. TOD, anybody believe in transit-oriented development? If you build it, they will come, and so the development market has been a little bit slow here in the last few years, but it's starting to pick up. We're seeing some signs of that. We have a lot of property that we had purchased during the building of our rail systems, and we're starting to see interest in that. One of the most notable is right across the street from our office there in Ackerd Street in downtown. And there's a huge development there with that old bank building. And now they're wanting to buy our building and relocate us up the street a little bit so that they can have both sides of that corridor there centered right around the Ackerd Street station. So it looks like things are starting to develop, at least get back on track. GoPass. How many of you know about GoPass? Yeah, very good. GoPass is very cool, and even if you don't buy tickets, through GoPass, I would encourage you to download it. And the reason is it has a great set of travel tools. And the travel tools, you can locate a bus, you can locate a train, and so it is all of those tools wrapped up into a mobile handheld. We are working right now with several other, it's Google-based, and so several other properties are signing on to use that, and we're supplying the backbone for that. And we've done this for the region, so it's in Fort Worth, it's in Dallas. If you happen to be in Chicago, if you'll punch in the street address in the Google section of that, it'll actually pull it up. You won't have all the travel tools, but it'll pull it up because it's Google-based. So different parts of the country that are supported on a Google base, you can use the travel tools for. We have downloaded, people have downloaded about 250,000 of these, and we sold over 1 million tickets. And now what we're doing is starting to sell package tickets. So for an event like the State Fair of Texas, you can buy entrance into the State Fair as well as a ride to get there. And so we're starting to see a lot of development in that area. So stay tuned. That looks like that's going to be very good to us in the future. I'm on the train. You know, how many people talk and how many people text? How many people brush their teeth, comb their hair, do all that while they're driving in the morning? Now, I may not recognize all of you, but I've seen some of you out there on the road. You can do all that on the train, and you can do it safely. So I told you that once I got to the end, am I doing okay on time? Doing good. All right. We may even have time for some hard questions for that team that I introduced. All right, so here are the list of things that are coming at you pretty quick. All right. The first one is we're going to select a streetcar contractor or contractors for the extensions. And that will be here within the next month to 2 months. Platform modifications, we will need a design team, and we will also need contractor or contractors to do those. We have 28 that will be modified, and we do have funding. Historically, the Texas Department of Transportation has not given a whole lot of money to transit. We were awarded $60 million for this project, and so TxDOT has been a great partner, and they're starting to recognize the value in transit and not just roadways, and so we're very appreciative of that. The other thing is streetcar connection, that connection between downtown and Union Station, or uptown and Union Station. That one will be coming out. We've got to do the environmental clearance, and then we will need a design team. We'll also need a construction team. Valley View Double Track, we will need a contractor for that. That is a project that has been tied to bring an Amtrak to the Trinity Railway Express corridor. We have the design pretty much complete. We're refreshing it. We've had that on the shelf for about 3 years. It's taken us that long to negotiate Amtrak onto the TRE corridor. But we have finally got all the negotiation and deal points done, and so that project will kick off here shortly after the first of the year. Positive train control. If you don't know what positive train control is, just be okay with that. Run the other way. Positive train control is the unfunded mandate, which is a collision avoidance system for freights and commuter rail trains. Much like commercial airlines have, but it's not as well developed, and so we're going to be looking for some help on that. We have the Phase 1, the tunnel segment of the D2 alignment. We have the Cotton Belt. I didn't talk a lot about the Cotton Belt today, but the T has gotten the record of decision on the western side of the Cotton Belt. That's from DFW Airport to Tower 60 is DART's ownership, and then down through Union Pacific territory and into downtown Fort Worth, and then we are looking at development of the Cotton Belt to the west. We are still looking at developing the entire corridor. I'm looking at a public-private partnership, but that public-private partnership doesn't have the same connotation that it used to have. I still think that the funding sources are there, and we can set up the management of those funding sources and use that as a bondable revenue source, and we can borrow money cheaper than just about anybody. And so it may be very simply design build or some modification of design build, including some assistance on operations and or maintenance of the right-of-way. The other thing that I would tell you is 75 corridor service. There is an idea that we could run bus rapid transit up the rail corridor instead of trying to run a commuter rail or a light rail or one of the more expensive modes, and so we're doing some environmental clearance work on that. If you are interested in the general planning consultant contract, it is on the street, and you should be looking at teams. We're going to do a lot of the early preliminary work through that contract, so go out there on the website, take a look, because we have a lot of opportunities on that contract. Significant maintenance projects like the CBD rail replacement. Our system is starting to get to the age where we're going to have to start refreshing and doing some of the things like the rail replacement. There is a list that's being developed right now as part of our asset management program, and so keep a close eye on that. It's not always building new, it's also going back and refreshing. High-speed rail and higher speed rail. Two things I would say about that. It appears as though high-speed rail may be for real, and it looks like they are making some good progress. And so things are going to start to move here in the next 12 months is my prediction, maybe sooner than that. And I suspect that some of the things that you're going to see are going to be, I don't want to say revolutionary, but they're going to be pretty interesting. So keep an eye on that. The other thing is there is what is targeted as, you know the difference between high-speed rail and higher speed rail? Higher speed rail is actually slower than high-speed rail, right? So the high-speed rail is something on the order of 180, 200 miles per hour, maybe even with the new maglev system that they're touting, 300 miles per hour. But higher speed rail is actually the lower speed that goes above the 79, which is typical freight speed, and it goes to 110 or 125 or somewhere in there. So higher speed rail has probably an application between Dallas and Fort Worth, and there is a big push to have high speed rail. And there's a lot of discussions about the fact that you can go between Dallas and Fort Worth in 19 minutes stopping in Arlington. No, you can't do that. Ain't going to happen. Maybe 25 minutes. We can do it with higher speed rail in probably 30 to 35. And so right now the study is going on. It is out there, so pay attention to what's going on that. It's either the 30 corridor or it's going to be the Tier E corridor. Make the investment in the corridor that we already have and allow us to run express service between Dallas and Fort Worth at higher speed rail rather than high speed rail. High speed rail is estimated to be $3 to $4 billion between Dallas and Fort Worth. We can achieve higher speed rail and achieve almost the same time savings. And we can do that for $2 to $750 million is our annual estimates. If we have $3 to $4 billion to spend on high speed rail, then we ought to divide that up amongst a bunch of other projects and put a lot of other people to work. So that's my advertisement. I'm not sure where we're at on time, but we can take some questions? Okay. Questions?
Has DART been working with the high-speed rail folks to see if their end station could possibly link up with some of the DART facilities?
Absolutely. It has to. It has to. They're talking about a 30-minute frequency of service, and they could bring 1,000 to 2,000 people to a destination in Dallas or a destination in Houston. You have to be able to leverage the existing system. You can't afford to put a new system in place to distribute. And that's why I believe that it's going to be pretty close to Union Station in Dallas. Now, Houston has a whole different set of problems that they're dealing with. And I've heard it's likely going to stop at the outer loop, and then there'll have to be some type of a system to distribute. But they're really wrestling with that down in Houston right now. So what I would tell you is the environmental clearance process is going on. They have several different alternatives that they're looking at. I truly believe it has to link up with one of the existing systems. And if you think about Union Station, it already has commuter rail. It has light rail. It's going to have streetcar. We can, the Greyhound bus station is 2 blocks up the road. It's right there by the convention center. With phase 1 of the D2 alignment, you'll have a direct ride from DFW Airport down to Convention Center or to the high-speed rail. It makes too much sense from a planning perspective. I'd be very surprised if it went anywhere other than that. Just McKay's opinion, because the environmental process still is going on. But I'd be very surprised. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. This one first, and then you, sir.
Southwest Airlines, with you guys.
You know, a long time ago, you'll remember Southwest Airlines was not at all interested in that. But there's one thing that has changed the entire game, and that is the Wright Amendment is no longer. And so now it doesn't cut directly into the core of their business, and they're be able to reach out and go direct outside instead of having to do the hop. And so Southwest Airlines is way okay with this. They're supportive of this, as I understand it. Now, if I were Southwest Airlines, I think I'd be a partner in that, and then I would link that up to my short hop system, and I would try and leverage that. But I'm not Southwest Airlines, so that's just McKay's opinion. But yes, sir, they're okay with that. They're not going to fight us on it. You know, they may not go out there and be part of the business model, but they're not going to fight on that. Yes, sir.
What is your annual fare box income?
Annual fare box income is something, and it's different for the different modes, but we get about 15% of our annual revenues, and so our annual revenues to run the system are a bit over $400 million. And so if you do the math, it's somewhere around $50 million, $60 million generally on the fare box.
Where does the balance come from?
The balance comes from the way that we are funded, 1 cent sales tax from our 13 member cities, and then from grants and different types of programs that we can take advantage of from the federal, local, and state governments.
Time for one more question.
Gary? So the question is, do you see the delivery model changing to design build? Are we going to stay with that, or are we going to do something different? I have said publicly that there's not a panacea for project delivery. And I think you have to look at all of the opportunities. We built our system on design bid build. We have done CMGC, construction manager, general contractor. We have done design build. I think that what you're going to see is a combination of those in the future. I just don't think there's a one size that fits all. I hope that answers your question. Yeah. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to be here today.